lift me up when I'm falling. Lift me up and let me see. Reach out, pull me from down under.
Hi everyone, welcome to another exciting edition, a story-loving edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. Delighted on this episode to be talking with comics creator, storyteller Daniel Corey. Is it Daniel or Dan? What do you prefer?
I usually go by Daniel, but yeah, either way is fine.
Awesome. Well, Daniel, thank you for jumping in, joining, and I will mention a couple of titles, as I often do here, that folks can go and find. Moriarty, Red City being a couple of those, as well as Prophet, and a work that I know you've done that is also out in the world, which is Bloodworth. So you are someone who is locatable at bookstore websites and things of that nature. And we'll, of course, talk about any other creating that you'd like to mention as well. But by means of a first question, I'm curious what it's been like to work in comics and across media.
Thank you for having me on the program, by the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what's it like? Yeah. Well, it was really hard to, with comics, it was very difficult to kind of break in, as it were, just to get any kind of publishing done outside of publishing it yourself,
hmm
So I would not frustrating or would not be two words that I would use to describe working in comics. It's with like when I made Profit, and I started taking that. I took it everywhere. I took it to local networking groups and showed people pages. I did the same with Moriarty. I was showing other comics pros my pages, and I was going to all the conventions and talking to all the editors and stuff. This is back when they had editors coming to shows. I don't think it's quite so common anymore. But I got lots of feedback from just like dozens of pros, and the process for each of those first two comics, it was a couple of years each of just that, of developing and researching and working with my artist. My artist on those titles was Anthony Diachidue. And we did Prophet together, and then we were ushered into Image together with Moriarty. With comics is, as a writer, what every publisher wants to see is finished pages. So as a writer, you got to sit down and write the whole thing. Write your script. Don't like kind of spitball a couple of pages and throw that out there and expect anything to happen. You want to have it like the words all done, and then with the artist, you have to have a good number, if not at least an issue drawn. Probably these days, they probably want the whole thing done. If you're going to do 4 issues, just have them all done before really shopping them. So it's very time consuming just the research and then executing it. But the thing is, once you get into the publishing cycle, like with the Image, it's like you got to keep up,
Yeah.
And like the previews catalog, which I don't think Image is even in anymore, but they're doing something else. But you had to release all the blurbs for your next issue 3 months ahead of time, which means you had to have a cover 3 months ahead of time. And so once you're in that publishing cycle, it's fast, it's furious. Especially in making a comic. As far as like what making comics is like, it's almost like the enormity of like making an entire movie. Really, just because the amount of content and everything you're having to churn out with just 2 or 3, maybe 4 people working on everything, kind of makes it feel like the massive amount of work an entire crew doing an entire movie, and you can imagine how difficult that is. So I guess that kind of, hopefully that answers your question a bit. As far as media in general, I do other things. I make I'm a musician, and I've released music, and I've made a music video which recently won a Telly Award. That was great. That is, it's difficult, it's time consuming, it's labor intensive. Kind of when you're doing things on your own, you're on your own schedule, but you also don't want to drop out of the public sphere too often. So there's kind of that feeling of that grind. So I guess that hopefully that kind of answers some of that question.
Absolutely. If it's okay, I'll tweak question two slightly here, which is usually about comics, but I'm curious about what music making allows you to do creatively and expressing and storytelling too, because songs tell stories in their own way.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it was really neat. In the past several years, I gotten back to music and songwriting. I had kind of like left that behind when I went into comics. Had not done that as much. Did it more in my youth, but coming back to it with kind of a more just sense of, I was mature. I'd actually lived some life and learned some things. So the music making in the last several years has been a good experience for me. And yeah, as you say, it is storytelling. The thing that's neat about it is, expressing a story in the form of poetry. You can, it doesn't have to be linear and, bullet pointed out the way, is that a term, bullet pointed? It doesn't have to have the bullet points of a script, like for a comic or a movie or what have you. You can kind of tell a story that exists in your own mind and express it in a way that makes people think, of the stories that's in their mind. They might not know what story that I'm thinking of, but it's going to evoke something out of them. So, everybody has a very unique experience in hearing a song. Everybody has a unique experience when they read a comic too. But as I said, the author and the artist have laid out specific points that they want you to experience. But everybody's going to experience different points in a song differently. So that's kind of the neat thing. I know inside in Seal's second album when that came out, he for those who don't know, that's the second album is the one that had that Kiss from a Rose that was in the Back Forever soundtrack and all that. So that was a huge album. The first two albums were huge for him. All of them kind of are, but that one was especially huge for him. He published something in the liner notes that said, I don't include my lyrics, in the liner jacket here, because I want people to take their own experience, and when I say this and people think I'm saying this, they're going to draw a certain experience from that.
Yeah.
And I really liked that a lot. I kind of want people to understand what I'm saying, but to be able to being able to evoke a unique response in a very unique way from people through music is really special. And it's performance. It's different than writing a comic or a screenplay or something. You're just in the cave by yourself. That's all. And with music, you actually get to go out. You can express it live to people in front of a crowd if you want. So that's very special. So those are some of the unique things about working in music that I love.
Yeah. Well, people talk about sort of recognizing the smell of old comics. When you say liner notes, there's like a particular smell that comes to my memory of like opening up a new album and looking and there's definitely that fix there as well.
Yeah. Not so much with the CDs, which was more the thing in the early 90s when that album came out. But vinyl records, man, there was a kind of a gap in vinyl record production and collecting. It was pretty big. It was like all there was mainly when I was born about. But then from like maybe mid 80s to early 90s or something, it really fell off. And now there's been a pretty big resurgence of it. But there's something about people do expect vinyl records to be old, which is funny. You can buy new ones. They do make new ones of new recent albums.
Oh yeah.
But vinyl record, you think that old dusty thing on your parents' shelf or something like that, and have that added bit of character of the beat up cover, the dust, the kind of that smell, the static electricity that comes off the disc when you pull it out.
Yeah.
The aged vinyl records are a very special thing.
Yeah. Well, I was actually thinking of like the newly produced, like when you open a package kind of smell, like that new car smell you sometimes get with liner notes too. So, but
when you got the vinyl of the record itself, it's always going to be, no matter if it's old or new, it's always going to be something special.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about Moriarty in particular. That's one of the comics that's out there that folks can go directly to and find. Curious about what you wanted to add to kind of the mythology of Sherlock Holmes and this rich world, and there's a nice kind of visual edge to the book too. I'll say that as well.
Thanks. Yeah, Anthony did a remarkable job drawing the book. He his goal was to he wanted to do like kind of a woodcut print look to his art, and so it's very stylized in a way that you don't see other comics being done, but it doesn't look so off the beaten path and eccentric, but it is
Yeah.
so different at the same time. And it's because he had in this creative process, like I said, this woodcut print thing. And I even saw that turn up in reviews online. People say the art has this woodcut print quality. I'm like, what
Nailed
is this
it.
going for, man? I loved that, that people were picking up on that. So yeah, the aesthetics were I thought, very unique of Moriarty. I think there hadn't been a comic that looked quite like it at all up to that point. So I was very proud of the work Anthony did on it. Yeah, I mean, just the thing of Moriarty himself. When you read the canon of Sherlock Holmes, he's not on screen or on stage at all. The entire canon of Sherlock Holmes, the original stories by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, he is spoken of, or something just happened with him, or something's going to happen with him, but yeah, he's never right there. So which is, people speculate, was he even real? Was he outgrowth of Sherlock's imagination, what have you? But I choose to think that he was a real kind of a real human being, and I wanted to expose him as such and do it visually in a comic book. And I had not seen a Moriarty comic book before that time, and there had been some novels written about Moriarty. So, but as far as, nobody had seen Moriarty in a story with his name above the title, as the leading character. So that felt kind of special in and of itself. And the fact that I love Sherlock Holmes, I love the mythos, the fact that that had been neglected, that had not, happened. I'm like, I got to be the person to make this happen. It was a pretty good idea. I mean, I can't tell you how many comics pros told me, "Oh, why didn't I think of that?"
Yeah.
Nice. Me being at the time a very, very beginner in the industry, to have all these people that have been doing it for 20, 30 years say that. I was like, I came up with the right idea. And I think the reason it got picked up by Image was it was right at the beginning of the kind of the Sherlock Holmes boom that happened, in the early to mid teens of this century. It's like Sherlock Holmes was everywhere. There was a massive resurgence of interest, and there was the TV shows and the movies and things. And I think that's probably why it happened with Image, because I just did it because I was doing what I wanted to do. I didn't know a Sherlock Holmes boom was coming. I think maybe they did see that, and they picked it because of that. I don't know. I never really said why, but so what started off as like a story from the public domain, a character from the public domain, kind of old fashioned, whatever. It became very timely in a way that I was not expecting, which was a nice bonus. And also, I put historical elements and stuff into the book to try to make it. I try to reference things that people relate to today. This specter of war looms throughout the first, the first volume, and we were dealing with Iraq and Afghanistan at the time, and I just thought, this will help people maybe find some catharsis in tapping into that. Maybe the story will help them find catharsis in whatever troubles that they're experiencing or projecting onto the world events at the time. So yeah, I think it was pretty timely in that way. And then also mainly, I just wanted to do Moriarty as a cool high adventure. I wanted to have exploding airships and death rays and ninjas and and just kind of spice it up a bit, because really all I was doing was magnifying elements that were already in the Sherlock Holmes canon. Because people would look at my stuff, or they'd look at the movies of Robert Downey Jr. like, that's not in Sherlock Holmes. You can't do that. I'm like, yes, it is. Sherlock Holmes is full of horse chases, boat chases, gunfights. There's martial arts. There's people from exotic lands, as they would say. They referenced the war in Afghanistan with that Watson had been a part of, things like that. There's all kinds of things in those stories that kind of gave it this pulp magnificence, and I wanted to just kind of bring that in about visually and kind of magnify it to the world, and that because I found a lot of joy in doing that. So.
Love it. Yeah. Now you've crafted in crime, you've crafted in science fiction. I'm curious about the kinds of stories that draw you most.
Well, kind of the two things you just mentioned,
Ah,
actually.
nice,
Yeah.
nice.
So I love noir, crime and noir and science fiction. I think at heart, I'm kind of a noir writer, that's kind of my main thing. But on top of just standard street level noir, my mind goes to fantastical places, as so many of us writers do. So I like to layer on top of that, a little science fiction, a little fantasy, a little Twilight Zone, a little James Bond, a little Indiana Jones, what have you. So that's kind of ends up being the result. Yeah. So, and fantasy finds its way into every science fiction story, as you
Mhm.
know. So, fantasy would be an element there, but you can find elements of so many different genres and so many different types of stories. But I'd say, yeah, noir and sci-fi and fantasy would be kind of the main fields in which I play.
Love it, love it. Well, good that I'm picking up on the genres as a reader. I'm glad to hear that. By means of a final official question, and we can touch on anything that we might have missed. Uh, I am, of course, curious about where people can go to learn more, what you're working on creatively, and maybe what's next. And you're the first person I think that I've talked with on the podcast about songwriting. So very cool. I don't have like a sound effect or anything when we have like someone that talks about something for the first time. I've had poets on, which is kind of related to songwriting, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah. But glad to break that barrier and talk a little bit about the songwriting process as well.
Cool. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Mhm.
But I'm sorry. What was the question?
Yeah, sorry, I went off on a tangent there. I was just
Oh,
saying places where people can go and
oh yeah.
what's next creatively.
Oh yeah. Well, places people can go. Well, you talked about music, so I'll tell you about where to go for that. I'm on Spotify. I have two singles out now. Hopefully, more coming soon. But if you go on Spotify, just search my name, Daniel Corey, Corey, full name Daniel, last name Corey, and you'll find me on Spotify and all of the streaming platforms. Just there's a rap duo called Daniel and Corey, and they spell their name the same way, which is very inconvenient. But it's just not those, just no and in the middle, just Daniel Corey. Okay, so you don't get
Yeah,
confused. But I kind of do a more acoustic Americana thing. It's definitely not rap, so you won't get as confused when you hear the music side by side, I think.
gotcha,
But
gotcha.
yeah, Apple Music, Spotify, on YouTube, everywhere. Also, my award-winning video, "Lift Me Up," is it's called. My two singles, I should say, are "Nearsighted" and "Lift Me Up," and they were produced by Alex Calise and Dennis Morehouse, my good friends, and Alex sings all the backing vocals, and I play all the guitar and the piano and sing the lead vocals on those. But yeah, go to YouTube and search for "Lift Me Up." There's my award-winning video is on there. I've won 19 film festivals, and I won a Silver Telly Award for that, and I was very happy that I won in a category alongside MTV Entertainment Studios and Little Nas X. I
Nice,
never,
nice.
never thought I'd be on the list with that guy, so that's pretty
Yeah.
neat. But so yeah, you can find it anywhere music is found. But yeah, also, you can find copies of Moriarty, Red City on, BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon, and what have you. The Amazon absorbed Comixology, but Amazon Comics, you can find things there as well.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
my social media is at the Danger Cat. It's Danger Katt, one word. The Danger Cat, all one word. So I'm on Instagram. I'm on Threads, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube at that handle. And my website is dangercat.com.
Awesome, awesome. I'll make sure to provide the links, and I'll also throw out an @ when I post this on YouTube as well. Daniel, did we miss anything that you want to make sure to mention before we close out?
Well, we kind of talked about a lot, didn't we? I am working
We
on.
press a lot in.
I would say I'm working on some prose right now. I wrote a novel during lockdown, and I'm actually finishing a novella. I actually was working on that right before we got on this conversation. So still seeking out publishing opportunities for those. So we'll see where that goes. But hopefully you'll be seeing some novels by me at some point. So
Love it, love it. Love the range of creating, and glad to have you back to talk about those or any other kind of creating that you'd like to.
sure. Great, thank you. This was a lot of fun. Thanks.
I've been reeling, I've been falling, I've been thrashing in this heat. I've been locked out in downtown. I've been left out in the street. I've been out on a ledge, I've been down on my face, beaten and burned up and kicked into place. Don't wanna be living in this brick no more. I wanna know what living life is for. Lift me up when I'm falling, lift me up and let me see. Reach out, pull me from down under. I'm so blind, I wanna be free.